Hey guys, what's going on? Kevin Cage back with another daily cryptocurrency video. Welcome to the channel. Like and subscribe if you like what you see, and let's get right into the information today. So Michael Zischek, if you have not followed him on YouTube, highly recommend it. Very smart individual talking about XRP, the XRP ecosystem and the Interledger protocol in depth and detail. And now he's just agreeing with the tweet here that Jack the Rippler said, basically talking about Ripple, the private company, and saying, people like you and I, retail investors, everyday people, not institutions, are really thinking that Ripple, the private company, owes us any explanation, that they'll tell us what's going on with all products, partnerships, developments, etc. But they owe us nothing. And he goes, I have to say sorry because you as an investor in, an open sourced protocol that Ripple or nobody owns are not relevant for the success of the XRP ecosystem. Me, I'm here to make money. I'm catching a wave, all right? And again, Michael Zischek agrees and says, word of truth, we're not the target audience for Ripple. We are just necessary for liquidity. Absolutely. We, honestly, in the scheme of things, are not contributing too much. We're just riding a wave. We are still providing liquidity for some of the smaller corridors, hopefully providing some liquidity to tighten the spreads on some exchanges. But at the end of the day, we are just, catching the next financial reset, in my opinion. All right, XRP will be massive. If you're expecting massive price action this year, who knows? But guys, long-term, as a long-term investor, these price fluctuations, even if it goes up to all-time high again within a week or two, I'm not even flinching. I am not concerned with selling at $3. You can, and, de-risking, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't care what you do. But for me, my vision is at a much higher price when the ecosystem matures. When will that be? Will it be this year? Will it be 5 years from now? I personally do not know. But what I see is the developments in this year, fundamentally speaking, has been the best year for XRP. People say, XRP was the worst performing asset in 2019. Yet it was the highest and best returning asset in terms of an investment perspective in 2017. Yet, this is the time when you want to buy in an undervalued asset, and people say, "Oh no, stay away. Go to Bitcoin because it performed, this percent this year." Okay, go ahead. We'll see who has the last laugh. All right, right here, Hasty. Sorry if I mess up this name, but Hasty Toro on Twitter. So, what's the biggest blockchain? So he sent this, and this is really, really cool. So, as you can see, we're talking about transactions comparing XRP to Bitcoin. And again, I do not hate Bitcoin by any means. I still think it can be successful, but regulations could pose, a potential threat to it. But anyways, talking about whose blockchain is larger, whether it's, Bitcoin's network or the XRP ledger in comparison. So we can see here, we can see Bitcoin transactions, 453 million. And then we can see the whole ledger count of the XRP ledger, the full history of transactions. And keep in mind, we just successfully closed over 50 million, right here, this is 49 million, over 50 million ledgers successfully closed with 0 errors, no mistakes. There's no potential for rollbacks that is not in the code like it is in Bitcoin. There's no double spending or counterfeiting issues. Money cannot, destroy a proof of consensus mechanism. The XRP ledger is superior in every way. All right, and then the transaction count, as we can see, let me see here. You can kind of take a look at this chart. I think this is really well put together. But XRP transactions, over 1 billion versus 453 million. And as we can go on to see, he's done, all kinds of research and numbers in terms of terawatt hours of usage that proof of work networks use, such as Bitcoin, especially relating to the emissions and, carbon dioxide. So, including the fork networks, which never succeed, in my opinion, long term at least. So really, really cool little thread here. I know you guys have all seen these, but, figured it was worth a shout out. So various reports as well that we've kind of read through. So thank you for that. Right here, XRP boy, we are going over, and I don't care if you guys are annoyed that I'm going through Twitter, I'm going over relevant information that are on various websites, and if you've done your own research, you may have seen this, but these are literally threads from the CTO of Ripple, one of the founders and creators of the XRP ledger, David Schwartz. All of this is relevant if you are invested or considering to invest in XRP. All right, so right here, XRP boy. This is Joel Katz, that's his kind of name or Twitter handle again. I believe he's active on Reddit as well back in the day. And so David Schwartz right here, 2 main things, assuming XRP is successfully positioned as an intermediary asset. Intermediary, a middleman asset, a bridge currency that is agnostic and can exchange any form of value, whether that is gold, any form of fiat like US dollar, euro, or even tokenized real estate, securities, equities, stocks, you name it. So right here, number 1, people who hold money and are opportunistic would tend to hold XRP. They would do this because anyone making a payment to a destination, XRP was liquid, would need XRP to buy the destination asset. So holding XRP would give them a broad choice of opportunities to profit by facilitating other people's payments. Absolutely. Number 2, companies that need to make payments into lots of corridors. XRP is liquid to. Think Uber or Airbnb perhaps, various corridors, various countries would tend to hold XRP as well. They can buy it very cheaply by facilitating other person's payments by providing the fiat to the destination. They can then make payments to any corridor XRP is liquid to by paying only half the normal spread since they are already into XRP. That's fascinating as well. So now both of these factors would drive demand, which would be expected to increase the price. And remember, he cannot be too bullish on price. I know if he said, for different networks, we'd have be $20 per XRP. If it was this type of market dominance in the cross-border, cross-border industry, he said $120. But keep in mind, there's various multiplier effects to consider based on how much money is locked up in escrow, how much money is actually custodied, or how much XRP, I should say, is actually stored and held in cold wallets by not only retail investors, but the founders, along with the institutions and banks that are predicted and are custodying these digital assets and holding them long-term in expectation of price appreciation by acting as this intermediary asset. Right here, the short answer is that there are a lot of reasons people would want to hold a currency that is used as an intermediary asset for settlement, not just payments, settlement. And that's the pain point that it's solving today. That should lead to an increase in demand that would be expected to put upward pressure on price. And right here, David Schwartz, talking with XRP Trump, very smart guy in the XRP community as well, says, I think I could describe my personal trading motto now as don't miss the next Ethereum. Remember, Ethereum was sub $1, skyrocketed. What did it almost hit, $1,400 in 2018 during that bull run? And right here, smart. Best way not to miss it is to ensure you are working on it, hinting that, to David Schwartz. And then again, it's definitely starting to look like I didn't miss the next Ethereum at all. Right here, what does this mean for the ultimate value of XRP? We've gone over this probably 50 times on this channel, but that it's a long-term play measured not by short-term jumps in price, technically a lot of tests in volume, or just speculation and bots, but rather by the use in enterprise adoption of XRP. Me personally, I would be the dumbest person in the world if I were to give up on XRP now, rather than waiting for enterprise adoption of XRP, since we are just getting started. This is probably 2016 in terms of the cryptocurrency space. We saw that spec bull run in 2017, 2018, the beginning of. We are starting the cycle all over again. I don't know when it's going to occur, whether it's this month, next month, or even next year, but I am just dollar cost averaging, accumulating, because I see the future. All right, and then right here, XRP boy again. As we can see from Bitcoin, the power of speculation seems to trump all other factors for digital assets and cryptocurrencies. Yes, XRP has the potential utility of all cryptocurrencies. It could be used on a scale that would dwarf usage by all other digital assets. The market for Swift, for example, Swift payments, we already know it's trillions per day, is currently measured in quadrillions. If XRP handles just a small fraction of that amount, which they are targeting to settle because Swift's GPI doesn't solve the problem at hand, XRP is the only asset today that can act as a form of settlement and be a source for on-demand liquidity. Now, the utility analysis that Yato presents can be placed aside as a unique footnote in XRP price history, but speculation dwarfs utility-based demand. And that is literally what Brad Garlinghouse has been saying. He says the crypto assets or digital assets that will survive will be based off of utility, a real problem being solved by a real asset. When a market perceives a digital asset to contain high value or potential for real-world usage, it rewards it with a high base price. But what is the ingredient for quarter after quarter demand increase? Volume and liquidity combined with the ability to promote the brand name of the digital asset. XRP has both of these ingredients in large amounts. And if you say, oh, I've never even heard of Ripple or XRP, well, that just means you're not in the fintech space regarding payments. Because if you look at every single document today, whether it's the top 40 to 50 central banks and even the top probably 40 to 50 governments around the world that Ripple has literally said in video that they're actively working with, and then, of course, being at tables with the International Monetary Fund, presenting with the Bank of International Settlements, the World Bank, This has been happening for a long time, and it's my belief, you can call me crazy, but give it 5 years, and we'll see who has the last laugh. This has been in the works for a very, very long time. And just like many people in this community agree, it's not too good to be true because it's actually happening. You guys can ask me questions. You can actually do your own research instead of expecting me to answer 8 pages of comments every single day, and you'll come to the same conclusion. When you do 5,000 to 8,000 hours of research like I have, reading and reading and reading, podcast and podcast. I'm not just sitting on YouTube. I am wholeheartedly reading and actual finding concrete sources. This is happening in front of our eyes. Right here, digital assets like XRP could play a major role in strengthening the global economy and helping avert the next financial crisis. You can argue that there were various problems in the past, with the 2008 crisis. Guys, if you go through those documents like that video I did a few days ago, liquidity was the issue. Instant liquidity will bridge the gap and help avoid, or at least avert, the next financial crisis. But again, I think it's getting to the point of no return, and XRP will be needed at some point. 10 years from now, or from the financial crisis, we still don't have the infrastructure, perhaps to prevent the next one. And I think this is where digital assets can really help, because an efficient digital asset can really solve some of the key problems in global liquidity. The world's got trillions and trillions of dollars tied up in liquidity, their dormant pre-funded accounts, just in case money, just to get around how clunky the movement of value is around the world. With a really efficient digital asset, something like XRP, and that's what we believe will be the most efficient. You can now reduce trillions and trillions in capital from being tied up. There's no more capital costs. There's no more inflation. All kinds of, slippage in transactions that we see today. So you can make those transfers instantly as a bank or as a payment provider or enterprise without having to use or having money pre-positioned all over the world. Brad Garlinghouse, here's some famous quotes by him as well, and this is made by Status. We're going to drive a massive amount of demand for XRP because we're solving a multi-trillion-dollar problem. Now, I've seen him in video say that there's dormant capital. I've seen figures from 23 to 24 trillion, 27 trillion. I've seen 5 trillion, I've seen 10 trillion. They really bounce around these figures, and I'm curious why. And then recently, a Ripple, was it Monica Long? Who said that? They said there's about 80 trillion tied up globally, but they're attacking 12% of that market, which is approximately 9.6 trillion, or rounded up to about 10 trillion, give or take. All right. And that doesn't matter. This is literally just global remittance, all right, for cross-border transactions. We're not even including R3. We're not including the derivatives market, which can be another quadrillion market. Yes, quadrillion. We're not including the real estate market, which is massive, especially in terms of asset fractionalization in the future. Okay, so right here, Bitcoin's influence over cryptocurrency prices could end as soon as markets begin to understand the major differences between cryptocurrencies and their use cases. And as always, Brad Garlinghouse differentiates XRP by calling it a digital asset. It has true utility, not just a store of value, because XRP could do that as well. And for payments, XRP will solve payments. Why is Bitcoin going to be a currency? I don't think fiat is going anywhere anytime soon, but we need a settlements back-end infrastructure to settle the payments globally. And I think everyday people like you and I, we won't even be aware of XRP, but it'll simply be a part of the ecosystem of the future Internet of Value when we're transacting, so we're able to settle in real time, just like we're able to send data instantly, and just like we're able to send packages and receive them via Amazon. It's the completion of globalization, as Chris Larsen, executive chairman of Ripple, always says. Right here, hype versus reality, and blockchain and crypto is way out of whack. Experiments are not a business model. And you might be referring to some of these ICOs, these initial coin offerings, and a lot of them were actually scams. Now, Ripple is going deep with customer solving real problems and seeing real progress. And then in reference to the Swift GPI, guys, they're going to be talking about this at Sibos, which is Swift's financial conference every year. This is going to be in London, I believe, the 23rd to the 26th. They are talking Swift GPI, and they're talking about the connection right to Corda Settler. Corda Settler's primary settlement mechanism is XRP, and I'll have a video going over some of the actual stuff that they've released even in July, and I'm so excited to see what kind of developments we hear about this, because we've seen R3, we've been talking about real estate, we've been talking about letters of credit. We see that MasterCard joined, what was it? Was it Marco Polo? And, Marco Polo, we got Voltron. We got these huge groups that are working directly with R3 to help with digital or distributed ledger technology in the future of really just doing this digital transformation for the world of trade, finance, and just moving value. And R3 owns billions of XRP, FYI. All right, so right here, Swift GPI is like putting a Ferrari shell on a Model T engine. It's a cosmetic upgrade, makes it look better, but it's really just a cosmetic upgrade on old infrastructure. Messaging is still not tied to settlement. All right, Swift GPI, fancy messaging, fancy debit and credit interface, but it's not solving the settlement on the back end. All right, it's fooling the customers, and guess what? It's unidirectional and cannot solve for liquidity. And guess what? If it doesn't solve for liquidity, it's actually not removing the trillions of dollars. The problem right here on the left, this multi-trillion-dollar problem of, literally pre-funded accounts everywhere that are, susceptible to so much capital costs are still sitting there. It's not helping the problem at hand, right? This instant liquidity is going to help the tier 3 banks as well, the lower players, and it's going to create this so-called level playing field. All right? I feel like I've been talking for a really long time. All right, finishing up with this. Ian Northing, follow the money. An Overstock founder dumps his stake for gold crypto assets. Bloomberg. Now remember, this guy was his last name, Byrne. Patrick Byrne sells 5 million shares for about $90 million. Now remember, guys, don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. We saw this just like in 2008. Remember August? We saw what the stock market did last month? That was a hint. All right, we know the Fed is printing more money than ever. It is really, really mirroring 2008. Look at history, and as I've said in a lot of videos, history, it might not always repeat, but it often rhymes. Let me know your thoughts down below, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.